Do you ever grab those leftovers from the fridge, warm them up, and then later feel a bit off? Maybe a little stomach rumble, some unexpected fatigue, or just a general sense of unease that you can't quite put your finger on. It's a common scenario, isn't it? We're all looking for convenience, especially as we get a little older and life just seems to speed up. A quick meal from yesterday's dinner can be a lifesaver when you're tired or just don't feel like cooking from scratch. But here's a painful reality that many of us unknowingly face while those reheated meals seem harmless. Some everyday foods, when not handled correctly, can actually turn into silent troublemakers, subtly undermining our health. You might be making yourself feel unwell, or even worse, creating conditions in your body that could lead to more serious issues down the line. All without ever suspecting that the very food you thought was saving you time was actually causing the problem. The secret isn't about avoiding leftovers entirely, but understanding a crucial truth about certain foods. There are particular types of foods that, when reheated without proper care, can transform from nourishing meals into something far less beneficial, even downright harmful. It's not about fear-mongering. It's about empowering you with knowledge. In this video, we're going to shine a light on 5 common foods that many of us reheat without a second thought. We'll explore why they can become problematic, and more importantly, what simple steps you can take to make sure your meals are always safe and genuinely nourishing. We'll look at practical advice that fits right into your daily routine, helping you avoid those unwelcome surprises and keep your body feeling its best. Stick with me until the very end, because I've got a crucial piece of advice that many of us overlook, which could be the most important takeaway of all. So, let's dive right into our first food, a staple in nearly every household across the globe, especially after a big family meal or a batch of meal prep rice. Now, you might be thinking, what's wrong with reheating rice? I do it all the time. And that's precisely why this is so important to talk about. The danger with rice isn't actually in the reheating itself, but in how it's stored before it gets back into the pan or microwave. Cooked rice contains spores of a bacterium called Bacillus cereus. These spores are incredibly tough and can often survive the initial cooking process. Now, here's where it gets tricky. If cooked rice is left to cool slowly at room temperature, these hardy spores can germinate and multiply into bacteria. And what do these bacteria do? They produce toxins. These toxins are the real culprits. And unfortunately, reheating the rice, even thoroughly, often won't destroy them. So, you could heat that rice until it's piping hot, but the toxins might still be there, ready to cause symptoms like vomiting or diarrhea. It's a classic case of what you don't know can hurt you. Think about it. You make a big pot of rice for dinner. Everyone eats their fill. And then you leave the rest on the counter to cool down while you clean up or settle in for the evening. Maybe you cover it with a lid, thinking that's enough to keep it safe. But those precious hours at room temperature, that warm, moist environment, are exactly what those Bacillus cereus spores need to wake up and start their unwelcome work. The longer the rice sits out, the more toxins can be produced. It's a silent process. You won't see anything obvious, no strange smells or colors, which is why it's such a stealthy problem. So, what's the golden rule for rice speed? You need to cool it down as quickly as possible. The aim is to get it from cooking temperature to refrigerator temperature within 1 hour. That means no leaving it on the counter for hours. Divide it into smaller, shallow containers, spread it out, or even use an ice bath to speed up the cooling process. Once it's cool, get it into the fridge immediately. And once it's in the fridge, aim to consume it within 1 day. When you do reheat it, make sure it's steaming hot all the way through, not just warm in the middle, and avoid reheating it more than once. It's a simple shift in habit, but it makes all the difference for your peace of mind and your gut health. Now that we've untangled the mysteries of rice, let's move on to our next common kitchen item that needs a little extra care when it comes to reheating chicken and other poultry like turkey or duck. Many of us love leftover roast chicken or a quick chicken stir-fry from the night before. And why wouldn't we? It's convenient and delicious. However, Reheating chicken incorrectly can open the door to some unpleasant and potentially serious foodborne illnesses. The primary concern with poultry is bacterial contamination, especially from pathogens like Salmonella or Campylobacter. While these bacteria are usually killed during the initial cooking process, the danger resurfaces if the cooked chicken isn't cooled down properly and then reheated insufficiently. When chicken cools slowly or sits at room temperature for too long, any lingering bacteria can multiply rapidly. Then, when you go to reheat it, if it doesn't reach a high enough internal temperature throughout, those bacteria can survive and cause quite a nasty bout of food poisoning. We're talking about severe stomach cramps, diarrhea, vomiting, and a general feeling of misery that no one wants to experience, especially not as we get a bit older and our bodies might be a little less resilient. Another aspect to consider with chicken is its protein structure. Chicken is very high in protein, and when you reheat it, especially if you do it multiple times or too quickly, the protein can denature and change. This isn't just about texture. It can make the chicken tougher and, for some people, harder to digest. Think about how a beautiful, tender piece of chicken can become dry and stringy after a second trip to the microwave. That's the protein structure changing. While this doesn't directly poison you, it certainly doesn't make for a pleasant eating experience. And if your digestion is already sensitive, it can contribute to discomfort. So, what's the safest approach? Similar to rice, rapid cooling is key. After cooking, get your chicken into the fridge within 1 to 2 hours. Store it in shallow, airtight containers to help it cool evenly and prevent contamination. When it's time to reheat, make sure it reaches an internal temperature of at least 165 degrees Fahrenheit or 74 degrees Celsius. All the way through. It should be steaming hot. Don't just warm it up, heat it through until it's piping hot. If you're reheating larger pieces, it's a good idea to cut them into smaller, more uniform pieces to ensure even heating. And here's another important tip. Try to avoid reheating chicken more than once. The more times you heat it, the higher the risk of bacterial growth if done improperly, and the more the protein degrades. So, enjoy your leftovers, but be mindful of how you handle and reheat them to keep them safe and tasty. Now that we've discussed rice and chicken, let's move on to another kitchen staple that might surprise you: potatoes. Whether it's leftover baked potatoes, mashed potatoes, or even a potato dish from a restaurant, these starchy wonders are incredibly versatile and often find their way into our fridges for another meal. But like our previous two foods, potatoes come with their own set of rules when it comes to reheating, primarily due to a bacterium called Clostridium botulinum. This is the bacterium responsible for botulism, a rare but extremely serious form of food poisoning. The spores of Clostridium botulinum are found in soil, which means they can be present on the surface of potatoes. While cooking usually kills the active bacteria, the spores can survive. Here's the critical part. These spores thrive in low oxygen environments and at warmer temperatures. Exactly the conditions that can be created when you wrap a baked potato tightly in foil and then let it sit at room temperature for too long. The foil creates that perfect anaerobic, or oxygen-free, environment for the spores to grow and produce a powerful neurotoxin. This toxin, unlike the ones from Bacillus cereus or Salmonella, affects your nervous system and can be life-threatening. Even reheating won't always destroy this particular toxin. So, how do we enjoy our potatoes safely? The most important thing is to cool them down quickly and correctly after cooking. If you've baked a potato, remove it from its foil wrapping immediately after it's cooked to allow it to cool down rapidly and prevent that anaerobic environment from forming. Don't leave cooked potatoes, especially baked ones wrapped in foil, sitting on the counter overnight. They need to be refrigerated as soon as possible, ideally within 1 to 2 hours of cooking. Once they're in the fridge, use them within a day or two. When you're ready to reheat them, make sure they are heated thoroughly until steaming hot. Break them up, or if they're whole, cut them open to ensure the heat penetrates all the way through. Remember, The danger with potatoes isn't just about the bacteria, but the toxins they produce, which are much harder to eliminate. So, enjoy your lovely mashed potatoes or leftover baked spuds, but give them the proper cooling and reheating respect they deserve to keep you safe and well. Next, let's talk about certain green vegetables, specifically spinach, and indeed other leafy greens, but also foods like beetroot, celery, and even turnips. This might sound counterintuitive because we're constantly told to eat our greens for good health, and they are packed with vitamins and minerals. However, these particular vegetables naturally contain high levels of nitrates. Nitrates themselves are generally harmless. But when these vegetables are cooked and then allowed to cool slowly, or are stored improperly, bacteria present in the food or the environment can convert these nitrates into nitrites. And it doesn't stop there. Nitrites can then react with other substances, particularly in our bodies, to form compounds called nitrosamines. Some nitrosamines are known carcinogens, meaning they have the potential to cause cancer, while the risk from a single instance of improper reheating is low. Repeated exposure over time is something we want to avoid, especially as we age and our bodies may be more susceptible to environmental factors. Furthermore, nitrites can also be problematic for the blood's ability to carry oxygen in certain conditions or in sensitive individuals. Nitrites can interfere with the hemoglobin in our red blood cells, reducing their capacity to transport oxygen throughout the body. This is a particular concern for very young babies, which is why parents are often advised not to reheat baby food containing these vegetables. For adults, especially those of us over 60, while not as acutely dangerous as it is for infants, it's still an additional metabolic burden and something we should be mindful of. So, what's the best way to handle these nutrient-rich greens ideally? These vegetables are best eaten fresh after their initial cooking, if you have leftovers. The key is to cool them rapidly and store them in the refrigerator immediately. When reheating, ensure it's done very quickly and thoroughly, reaching a high temperature. However, the safest advice for these high nitrate vegetables is to consume them fresh if possible, or if you must reheat them, do so with extreme caution and only once. If you're making a big batch of soup or stew with spinach or celery, for instance, consider cooking these ingredients separately and adding them fresh when you serve each portion, rather than reheating them multiple times within the whole dish. It's a small change, but it removes a potential source of worry from your plate and ensures you're getting all the goodness without the hidden risks. Finally, let's talk about eggs. We all love a good omelet, scrambled eggs, or a frittata, and they make for quick, easy meals or snacks. But like our other foods, eggs, especially when cooked and then left to cool, can become a breeding ground for bacteria if not handled correctly. The primary concern here is salmonella, a common culprit in food poisoning. Eggs are a high-protein food, and high-protein foods are naturally more susceptible to bacterial growth when they are allowed to sit at room temperature after cooking. If you cook a batch of scrambled eggs for breakfast and then leave the leftovers out for a few hours before putting them in the fridge, any salmonella bacteria that might have survived the initial cooking or recontaminated the eggs from the environment can multiply rapidly. Then, when you reheat them, if the internal temperature isn't high enough to kill off all those newly multiplied bacteria, you could be in for a very unpleasant experience. Symptoms can range from nausea and vomiting to severe diarrhea and fever, which can be particularly debilitating for those of us in our later years. Think about that feeling of being completely drained and unwell. It's exactly what we want to avoid. The protein in eggs also behaves a bit like chicken when reheated. It can become tough and rubbery if not done carefully. While this doesn't pose a direct health risk, it certainly detracts from the enjoyment of the meal. So, what's the best practice for leftover eggs if you're going to store cooked eggs or egg dishes? The same rule applies: cool them down quickly and get them into the refrigerator as soon as possible. Ideally within an hour of cooking. Store them in an airtight container. When you're ready to reheat, ensure they are heated until they are steaming hot throughout. For scrambled eggs, this means stirring them constantly to ensure even heating. For omelets or frittatas, cutting them into smaller pieces can help. And generally, like chicken, it's best to reheat eggs only once, the safest option, if you have the time, is always to prepare fresh eggs. However, with proper cooling and thorough reheating, your leftover egg dishes can still be a safe and convenient option. It's all about being mindful and making these simple, yet impactful, adjustments to our kitchen routines. So, we've explored why common foods like rice, chicken, potatoes, those leafy greens we love, and even eggs can become risky if they're not handled with careful attention when reheating. It's not about throwing perfectly good food away, but rather about being incredibly smart and intentional about how we store and prepare our leftovers. The overarching message here is not to instill fear, but to empower you with knowledge. Understanding these nuances about food safety is a powerful tool in your personal health arsenal. Small shifts in how we manage our leftovers can truly make a huge difference in keeping us feeling vibrant, energetic, and free from unnecessary discomfort or illness. Think of it as giving your body a little extra love and respect, ensuring that every meal, whether fresh or reheated, contributes positively to your well-being. Let's reinforce some of those critical tips that apply across the board. The most important, and perhaps the crucial piece of advice I mentioned at the beginning, is the emphasis on rapid cooling. This is often the most overlooked step. Don't leave hot food sitting on the counter for hours. The longer food stays in that danger zone, between 40 and 140 degrees Fahrenheit, or 4 and 60 degrees Celsius, the more time bacteria have to multiply and produce toxins. So, divide large portions into smaller, shallow containers to help them cool faster. Or even use an ice bath if you've made a really big batch of something like soup or stew. Get that food into the fridge within 1 to 2 hours of cooking, maximum. Secondly, always ensure prompt refrigeration. The fridge is your best friend when it comes to preserving food safety. Make sure your fridge is set to the correct temperature, typically below 40 degrees Fahrenheit, 4 degrees Celsius. And when it comes to reheating, always aim for thorough reheating. Your food should be piping hot, steaming all the way through, not just lukewarm in the center. If you're unsure, a food thermometer can be a great investment. And finally, a good general rule of thumb is to try and limit reheating food to just one time. Each reheating cycle can increase the risk if done improperly, and it often degrades the quality of the food. By adopting these simple habits, you're not just avoiding potential sickness, you're actively contributing to your overall health, energy levels, and peace of mind. Imagine feeling consistently better, having more energy to do the things you love, and avoiding those unexpected stomach upsets that can put a damper on your day. This isn't about drastic changes. It's about being mindful and making intelligent choices that support your body as you continue to live a full and active life. Your health is your greatest treasure, and taking these small, mindful steps truly adds up to a significant difference. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever felt off after eating reheated food and wondered why? Or do you have your own tried-and-true methods for safe food handling and reheating that you swear by? Share your wisdom and experiences in the comments below. Your insights could be incredibly helpful to others in our community. If you found this information valuable and empowering, please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps our channel reach more people who could benefit from these practical tips. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. That way, you won't miss out on future videos designed specifically for helping you live your very best life at every age. Keep nourishing your body, staying curious, and embracing every moment. Live your best life at every age.